What threats does climate change pose to Mexico?
Well, we have different issues. First, the most immediate thing is the hurricanes, for example, especially in this area of the Yucatan Peninsula. We have much more intense hurricanes in the last years, more frequently. So that's a big problem for people, for nature, for the economy. So that's a very immediate problem that we have. However, sea level rise probably is already affecting, promoting the erosion of the beach. And through time, if sea level rises, may affect the aquifer. We have a very important aquifer in this region, so sea level rises can push salt water into the fresh water that we use for our lives. And eventually, if things go worse, most of tourism development in this region is on the sea level. So the investment, the development can be affected by flooding, plus the effects on wetlands and on the lower level ecosystems might be affected, the health of the coral reef. So it's a big issue that we might face.
We're in Cancun at the moment, and a lot of the development is along the beach. Are we in danger here of rising sea levels?
If sea level rises significantly, there might be some effects. The Yucatan Peninsula is a very porous limestone area, so water flows not only above but also below. So if sea level rises, water can flood from many places. So we have to be prepared. There's still a hope that won't happen, but the risk is there. So yes, Cancun might be in trouble if we don't do some actions to prevent damages and problems.
And what is your organization doing to help prevent this?
We are doing research, trying to understand, for example, the aquifer, the relationship of the aquifer with the ocean. We are also working with the tourism industry in trying to reduce the impacts on climate by the destination emissions. We are assessing the emissions of Quintana Roo, of the Mexican Caribbean, and work with the hotels, for example, to reduce those emissions, compensate those emissions. And also we are working in adaptation, trying to understand what will happen with different climate scenarios, trying to preserve as much mangrove as we can, because mangrove is an important buffer ecosystem and can reduce some of the effects of climate change, and trying to start building on a different way how things are built in this area, for example.
When you think of climate change, you think of impacts on wildlife, on reefs, on Arctic ice. Do you think tourism could be one of the casualties of climate change if these beautiful areas start to disappear?
Certainly yes. I think most of the tourism in the world happens on the seashore. So the climate change is a global thing. So most of the tourism destinations in the world will be affected in some way if sea level rises or hurricanes are more and more frequent. So yes, the tourism will have a big impact, and will suffer a big impact, and that will have a big impact also in local economies and national economies. So the network of problems from climate change can be very complex and dramatic. I hope not, but we have to think on the worst scenarios as well.
Were you alarmed by the findings of the latest IPCC report?
Well, in some way it's confirming what we all fear, and it's an alarm that we have to be faster in how we act. And I hope that the GEF assembly will address that urgency that we have in the planet.